Right, good morning everyone and welcome to today's live lesson. As you're aware, any little pieces of grammar and stuff that we do in the live lessons all come up in your progress tests and even stuff that's in your exam, of course, because there's grammar, comprehension, etc. in your exam. So today we're going to be looking at writing a summary, because that is a very, very difficult thing to actually do. And when people try to do it in the exam, sometimes they take the first sentence and the last sentence and say, there you go, there is your summary. But as always, there's a correct way to do things and a wrong way to do things. Okay, right, let's take a look at the document that's going to tell us about writing a summary. And pay attention, what is the purpose of a summary? What is it? Why do you have to do it? What's it all about? Right, a summary is basically a shortened but accurate version of an article or text which should be written in your own words. It should not include any of your own opinions or ideas. In other words, if it's about surfing on the beach, you can't go in and say, wow, surfing in the beach is fantastic, I love it. No, no, no. You got to look at what the author has said and try and accurately depict what he has said. Why must a summary be written in your own words? Because if you do not use your own words, you'll be using the writer's words, and this is known as plagiarism, which means using other people's words or ideas without proper acknowledgement. So in other words, you can't just copy what someone is saying, because that means you're stealing their intellectual property. Okay? Someone's thought of something, it's their own idea, and you just can't steal it. It's like when people are writing music and songs, often you'll find, hey, you've copied my riff, or you've copied my tune, or you've written the same words as I had, and that's illegal. So they usually go to court, there's a big wrangle, and somebody has to end up paying once the jury decides who copied whom and why. Okay, so plagiarism is very bad. If you're writing an essay and just straight copying somebody. Right, why is plagiarism unwise? If you are stealing somebody else's ideas or words to make the reader think they're yours in order to get better marks, don't be too sure. Why? Because there's very sophisticated plagiarism detection tools available on programs, on the internet, on apps, and it's unlikely that plagiarism will go unnoticed. In fact, there are some universities that insist students put their essays through a plagiarism program and provide proof that they didn't plagiarize before they can submit an essay. So luckily, we're not at that stage at the moment. Right. How can plagiarism be avoided? How can you avoid doing it? Because you read a lot, you see a lot, and inadvertently, by mistake, you might write down what someone else has said. You can use a paraphrase, or you put something in quotation marks to show the words are not your own. Then you would cite where you got the quotation from. So you're not that likely to have to do too much of that at this stage, but for future reference, keep that in mind. Now we're talking about paraphrasing, and what on earth is a paraphrase? A paraphrase is when you change the original text into your own writing, into your own words. Okay? Firstly, it allows you to demonstrate understanding of the original work. So you've read it enough times to really know what it means. Secondly, it allows you to put the idea into your own words quite neatly, okay? The aim of paraphrasing is to change the words in the original text while keeping the same meaning. That's the most important thing to remember. You might use your own words, but if it doesn't mean the same, you're still going to get it wrong. So when you write a summary, you need to change the writer's words. Okay. For example, police in Joburg said a man fled from an accident because he didn't want to deal with his wife yelling at him. Now, if you had to put that into your own words, maybe you could reverse the order and change some of the words. And you start with, a man in Joburg seemed to think that leaving a car crash scene was preferable to listen to his wife shout. He told police that he would rather be arrested than listen to his wife shouting at him. Oh boy, either he's a total wimp or his wife is a brago. Okay, that's just an example of changing one thing round without changing any meaning. How to paraphrase? To paraphrase well, you need to use different wording to the original passage without altering the meaning. So you need to change original words to synonyms, words that mean the same thing. So again, this is where your reading comes in. If you've been reading a lot, you should know a lot of synonyms. Or the alternative is changing the word format, like put the back of the sentence to the front, change verbs to nouns, changing the word order. Okay, so that's how you would paraphrase. Here's another question. How many words should be in a summary? If you're not given any instructions, you generally write about 80 to 100 words at the level you're at. Okay, so that's really like a bit of a large paragraph. Because if it's too short, it means you've missed some of the main points. If it's too long, you put in unnecessary details, which we don't need. Right, how do you go about writing a summary? A summary can be defined as a brief statement or account of the main points of a text. Okay. Writing a good summary shows that you clearly understand the text and that you can communicate that understanding to your reader. So you're going to tell the examiner who's marking that summary exactly what happened, but a very condensed, short version. If you can do this, it shows your reading comprehension and writing ability is good. A well-written summary is an abbreviated, condensed, or shortened overview of the original article. That's all you're doing, breaking it down into the bare bones. A summary can be tricky to write at first because students often include specific details, and that's, of course, a big no-no. A summary is a shortened version. Why would you include the description or details? However, we have an 8-step summary that we can use to write a good summary. And if you use this, you'll be able to summarize text quickly and successfully for any subject, not just English. Because people who are studying history, geography, science maybe, they might have to summarize things and to write an answer about something, who knows? Okay. Right, let's take a look at the 8-step summary. This is just to show you, pictorially. Right, you start with quite a large article, and bit by bit, you're going to cut it down to its very smallest component. That's your summary, and that's how you start out with the article. Okay, so you're looking for the topic sentences or main ideas, which is exactly how you write your essays, but in reverse. Okay, that's all you are looking for. But you have to read it at least, you have to read it about 3 times in order to get that main idea or topic sentence. You've got to find it amongst all the description and stuff that the writer has been using. Right, here's the 8-step summary. Okay, the first thing you do, you read through the text and try to find the main points, i.e. the topic sentences. Then think about what's the overall theme of that text that you have just read. Is it like an advert for something perhaps? Is it a description? Is it a part from a journal or a diary? Is it an extract from a play? You don't know until you see that exam question in front of you. Okay, right, second step, number 2. On your second reading, this is when you highlight or underline or circle these important main points. You've got to make them stick out so that you can see them, because you're going to be using those. And while you're doing that, you can think about the 5 W's. If you remember what those are: who, what, where, when, and why. And this will clarify your thoughts, particularly about the overall theme. Okay, so you've read it once, you've read it twice. You're looking at highlighting or circling, underlining the main points, the topic sentences, what it's really all about. Okay, and step number 3, you must ignore the details or examples or evidence that back up those main points. You know, when you write your topic sentence, that's what you must provide. But in this case, when you're summarizing, you ignore these because they're irrelevant to the main points. And sometimes there's something you don't understand. So you make a note, circle, whatever, so you can think about inferring, trying to realize or understand or guess what it means at the end. So you reread the text until you feel confident that you know what it's all about. Okay, you've usually got plenty of time in the tests or progression tests or exam to do that, because if you don't do that at all, you're just going to get 0 points. So you must really understand that text. Right. Someone's just asked a question: will you do a summary in your essay? No, not in your essay, but in the comprehension and grammar section of your progress tests, there's generally always a summary. Okay, which is why we're going over this today. Right, step 1, read it. Step 2, second reading, highlight, underline, circle, whatever the important points. Think about who, what, where, when, and why. Do any of them apply to this extract? Maybe there's something that's difficult. You can put it in a box or something. You'll try and understand it later. Step 4, take notes in your own words of those main points. Okay? And this is when you are paraphrasing the main point. Try to expand on these points and clarify any information that was difficult to understand. Okay, so this is where you're using your synonyms or putting words into different formats or putting the front end of the sentence at the back end, all that sort of thing. So this is your little notes you're making now. Main points, you should only have about 3 or 4 main points. Okay? And then we'll look at what to do with them. Right, step number 5. Firstly, you need to develop a thesis statement. What on earth does that mean? It's just a 1-sentence summary that demonstrates that your understanding of the author's original text. Okay, so that can be quite tricky, but if you've actually understood it, it will be very easy for you. The passage was all about shipwrecks. Okay, that could be a thesis statement. The passage was all about a girl saving a little dog's life. And that would be a thesis statement. It's a very fancy word for it, but it's really a 1-sentence summary that shows that you know what that little extract is all about. Okay, right. Now you have the outline for the summary, step 6. Because you've written down the main points from the topic sentences, and you've written a thesis statement, which the whole thing's about. And now you start writing a draft summary using your own personal notes. And this is how you avoid plagiarism, of course, because you're using your own notes. Your thesis statement can be used as the introductory sentence, while the other main points you chose will go into the body paragraph. Okay, so that's what you're doing. You're shortening or abbreviating that passage. You're using your own personal notes that you wrote. And in fact, you don't need to look at the passage again, because once you've read it 3 or 4 times, you should know exactly what's in there. You're just getting that true meaning of the passage. Okay, and while you're doing that, be sure to include some transition or connecting words, connectors. Then, however, also moreover, because this helps with the overall structure and flow of the summary. Otherwise, you're writing fragment sentences and stuff like that, and you're not using the correct punctuation. So you need to be careful. And again, remember, do not add any comments or ideas of your own. That is wrong. The summary must be objective and discuss only what the writer has talked about. So you should have a nice introductory sentence and some other couple of sentences from your notes on the topic or main ideas. Right, here's something that you must remember. That's step 7. You must write in the present tense. It's all in the present tense. Okay, so remember that. And the other thing to remember is never, ever, ever put the word I into a summary. We're being objective. Okay, we're talking about the passage. So why on earth would you talk about, I like this passage, or something equally silly? Oh, that would be another big no-no. Be concise. In other words, don't waffle. Don't go on and on about the same thing. Don't repeat yourself. So you must be concise and make sure you have written the writer's story. In other words, talked about exactly what he has written. Right. Once you've done that little draft summary and then stuck in your connecting words, you should definitely have about 80 to 100 words written on the passage. And the final step 8, you are now ready to write the final summary. When you finish that, check and edit your work. Reread your summary to make sure you've accurately represented the writer's main ideas. And there you go. If you've done that, you're getting probably at least 5 points, maybe more, depending on what type of test you are sitting. Okay, let's look at that again. And of course, if you wanted, you can send me a web chat on CambriLearn and I will send you this paperwork. Okay, so you read step 1, read through the text to find the main points. Step 2, highlight, underline, circle the important main points. Step 3, ignore details or examples or evidence that back up the main points. They're just going to waste words. If there's any areas you don't understand, put a box around it or something until you feel you're ready to understand it. Then step 4, very important, take notes in your own words of those main points. Okay, you're writing this down, and then you're going to try and paraphrase those main points. Then, after that, you need to think about a thesis statement, which is a 1-sentence summary, 1 sentence of the whole extract. And that shows you understand the author's original text. In other words, what the passage is all about. So there you've got in front of you on your notes the outline for the summary you're going to write. So you use your personal notes, and that's how you're not going to be plagiarizing. And you start with your thesis statement. which is an introductory sentence, and the other main points you choose go into the body. Okay, so you start writing that out and write down the side or wherever, transition or connecting words. Then, however, also moreover, we'll look at some more just now. Okay, don't add any ideas of your own because it's got to be objective and discuss only what the writer has written, has talked about. Write in the present tense. Never use the word I in a summary. Be concise and make sure that what you're writing is what the right author wrote about. And then you do your final summary. And hopefully you get full marks for it by doing that. Okay. Yeah, I think we've looked at lists of connectors you can use in a summary. I won't go through them all. Cause words, effect, counter-argument words. It might be a bit of a counter-argument. Examples, comparing, additionals. All these type of words we've looked at several times. If you want the copy, you send them to me. They connect your sentences, they connect any paragraphs. Right, I don't know if we've time to read a summary. If somebody wants to write on the Zoom chat, do you want to look at a summary of Macbeth, summary of Avatar, summary of Diary of a Wimpy Kid, or summary of The Princess Bride? Whoever writes that first summary on there, we'll go through that. It might be one of the books you guys are reading. Any takers? Who's reading a book that's quite difficult? All right, let's look at Avatar. Somebody's asked for Avatar. Okay, which is a movie, which you may all have seen, or hopefully you have seen. Let's look briefly. This would be a summary of the whole movie. As you know, the whole movie's what, an hour and a half, 2 hours, who knows? But there's our summary, which is like one paragraph, and that's how it should be, 80 to 100 words or so. Oh, there's Adam, just joined in. Hi there. Right, summary of Avatar. And you've got The Princess Bride, that's good. We'll look at that just now if we've time. Right, Avatar, what's it about? When his brother's killed in a robbery, paraplegic Marine Jake Sully decides to take his place in a mission to the distant world of Pandora. On the lush alien world of Pandora live the Navi, beings who appear primitive, but they actually are highly evolved, highly intelligent. Because the planet's environment is actually poisonous, human and Navi hybrids called avatars, a hybrid is a cross between the two, must link to the human mind to allow for free movement on Pandora. Jake becomes mobile again, although if you remember he was a paraplegic, through one such avatar, and he falls in love with a Navi woman. As the bond with her grows, he's drawn into a battle for the survival of her world. That world has to survive. That's good, Enrico. Oh. The themes in Avatar are the destruction of land and people for natural resources and the invasion of a country for greed and profit. Gee whiz, that sounds like some things on Earth, doesn't it? People wanting oil and fracking and whatnot, destruction of the countryside for greed and profit. Okay, thanks, Noah. He says it should be pronounced Navi. Right, there's a sub-theme of environmentalism running throughout this movement as well. Okay, so there is just a brief summary of what happens in Avatar and what it's really about. Right, so we do have time to do another one very briefly. I think wonder no one else has put anything else. Okay, so the Navi, not the Navi, thank you. Now, one of the most difficult books people think is anything by Shakespeare. So let's look at a quick summary of Macbeth, which is the book most people are using. A brave Scottish general named Macbeth receives a prophecy from a trio of witches that one day he will become king of Scotland. This reflects his own secret ambition to become king. Encouraged by his wife, Lady Macbeth, who is also ambitious for power, Macbeth murders King Duncan and lays the blame on Duncan's guard, whom he kills. He then takes the Scottish throne for himself, but he's racked with guilt and paranoia as he's forced to commit more and more murders to protect himself from his enemies and suspicion. Therefore, he became a very tyrannical ruler. He was a tyrant. And Macbeth murders anyone who sees as a potential rival, including Macduff's wife and children. The bloodbath and consequent civil war swiftly take Macbeth and Lady Macbeth into the realms of madness, and she dies. They go mad from all the killing. They can't take it. Macbeth confronts the opposing army, safe in the knowledge that, as the witches predicted, no man born of woman can kill him. And when he fights Macduff, who's the person who discovered Duncan's dead body, and the latter tells Macbeth that he was born by what we now call Caesarean section. So this man was not born of woman. So Macbeth knows his fate is sealed, and he's slain and killed by Macduff. And then King Duncan's son, Malcolm, becomes a king, and the normal balance of society is restored. So that is Macbeth in a nutshell. Murder, death, madness, etc. So it's quite interesting for a nice little read. Right. We are running out of time totally. So let us stop share and let us say thank you very much for joining us today, and hopefully I'll see you next time. Okay, bye everybody.